Hi, my name is Al Green. Not that one, but the struggling guy who was in the music industry for years trying to sell talent and songs to agents. The agents befriended me and taught me techniques that I want to pass on to you through my program, which is called You Can Talk, You Can Sell. Anyone who has ever taken this program has excelled in selling and either risen to the top of their company, their team, or the top of their field. It's called You Can Talk, You Can Sell, and you can get it right here. I have a question for each one of you that's here. I've been requested to talk about the concept of learning from different sources. And one of the things that came up is, can you learn from the media? Not the news, but from television and internet and radio and other things like that, because they do a lot of pitching. But that's not the focus here, because they have an audience that can't reply back to them. Whereas with you and I, when we're in front of people, we can get feedback from the people, but we don't do it that way. So if you want to say, okay, what are some great examples? You could talk all the time about all the different guest hosts there are and hosts at different television shows, talk shows, and things like that, and how they ask very good questions. You can learn from that. There's a lot of lessons on YouTube. And one of the things that really struck me is the other day I was watching Shark Tank, and I'm not promoting the show, but what I am saying is that that's a perfect example of people that are making a sales presentation. Now, some people are very good at it, and that's great, but a lot of them actually are not all that great, although they have products that they've worked on and they completely believe in, just like you might have with your company. You might have worked on it and completely believe in your product, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are in any way going to convince a buyer any more than you would convince the sharks to invest in your company. But if you are, just remember, the people who they pay attention to are the ones that are prepared, the ones who have all of the numbers ready and are completely able to answer their questions without hesitation and with the correct answer. Some of them like to challenge them back. Some of them like to entertain different offers. Which one of those kinds of people are you? If you were going to sell something to me, what would you know about me? Knowing that only these lessons, I've talked a lot about what people do and the sales trainings that have come up and the type of coaching systems that there are and the different lessons, but very few people know actually who I am any more than I know who you are. But give me 5 minutes of an audience one-on-one with you, and I'll know more about you than you even realize I'm gleaning, because I'm going to ask you some key questions that are going to pertain to what your interests are and the kind of a person that you might be when it comes to what your wants and desires are. So let's just say, for example, customer that I worked on that became a client was somebody that I asked point blank if she had ever done business with my company before, and she mentioned that she had, and I said, okay, so who was the representative you were dealing with? And she mentioned the name of somebody that I know quite closely. So I said, great, and how were you treated by that rep? And she said, oh, he was great, that was fantastic. So I said, so tell me now, how long have you been with this company? This is a very large company that's involved in real estate and rental management of properties. So I said, how long have you been with the company? And she mentioned some answer like 7 years. And I said, have you always been at the location where you worked with my associate? And she said she was there for like 4 years. but she was at a very exclusive community that I was taking care of at the time. And basically we had a nice chat about everything, including how many animals she had as pets, and what her husband does for a living, and what her goals are, and the part of town that she lives in. So how long is her commute? And I also found out everything, except for I didn't pry in her political leanings or her religion, if any, because that wasn't important to the job. But what I wanted to know was what moved her. One of the things that she was much interested in was health. And we talked about it because that was something that I studied years ago. But again, I wasn't an expert. I was just studying to learn. And that's what we do as salespeople. We try to learn so we can talk on a lot of different platforms. It doesn't mean that we're know-it-alls and we know everything about every subject. But what it does mean is that we are people that try to create an array of knowledge so we can converse on a lot of subjects, at least enough to show interest and ask questions of the person who is interested in that subject. So, for example, years ago, I ran into a person who was a photographer and quite the professional, and had done a lot of magazine covers and also specialty advertising, and was always working and ran a great business. So I didn't ask him too many questions, but I did ask a couple of kind of roundabout questions, like, for example, do you have any preference as to how you like to contact people? And he basically said his reputation carries him, and that means referrals. And so he advertises, and sometimes when he does a magazine shoot, he'll have them put his name in a very small ad just to make sure that he's mentioned. And when it comes to the credits in the masthead on the magazine, he'll make sure his name is mentioned, photography by. So when I was dealing with this person, I went over to, he rented an apartment basically to use as a studio. Not as a shooting studio, but as an office to prepare everything that he does. He actually worked out of a studio that was in a completely different location. So when he was setting up, he needed help with a couple of detailed things, which was setting up his television to go with his DVR and his other video equipment. And I said, okay, let me get you an expert that'll do that. Now, I try not to handle everything myself, but what I did was, in fact, I got somebody to take care of him. And he was willing to pay for it, and it wasn't that much money, but the fact is it's not about you having to know everything, because there are always people that know a lot more than all of us, and you can hire them. And a lot of times they're glad to do the work. They're consultants. Another gentleman I know needed, he runs a jewelry store, and he came to me years ago to set up some consulting for his computers in his office. And I set him up with all the right people, but then he told me he had a website, and I said, let me look at your website. So I went to my office, I studied his website, and I said, I have a guy that can clean up all of your images to make it look good. He wanted really crystal clear images for all the jewelry that he sold, just as a sampling. And he had a video of the person that was his technician that was working on rings and bracelets and other such things. And we ran the video on his website. But again, I got this guy, this artist, a job that was really supplementing his income, because he's a top-level expert. He worked for a lot of years setting up DVDs and doing all the Easter eggs that they put in DVDs. He did that for years. And now his prices are exorbitantly high, but what an expert. So when you talk to a company and you find out that you might be able to be a link of getting them into other areas of expertise that they might need help with, and you're acting like a contractor, but you're over and above, under promising and over delivering. And when you can do that, You'll be amazed at how it cements your relationship to that customer and puts you in a place where you are absolutely preferred. And that'll help you with upsells later, referral sales, and at the same time, it'll help you with making sure that you are always thought of when it comes to vendors for that particular company or individual. If you're an entrepreneur and a company owner, and you are in an association of, let's say, something like LATIP or the various organizations for business that have those morning breakfast meetings at 7 a.m., those are kind of cool. You can always reach out to them and establish some contacts so that you can always make sure that you have connections with a lot of different people. But yeah, you can learn from the media and anywhere else you can. So keep your eyes open and keep learning, because remember, learners are earners.